In the presence, we got it. To be in the presence of all of you, knowing that we are unique divine sparks of that which created us. We use that word God here for that, but whatever word works for you, for that divine inner knowing, that beautiful spark, that beautiful big bang, nature, whatever it is that brought us to be here, not only as beings on this earth, but together today. And I am so very grateful. The founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, said, there is an inner something in each of us that belongs to the universe. And we have to get rid of all that inhibits it in every sense of rejection and guilt and insecurity and anxiety. Sounds easy enough to do, right? Just about every human being yearns for belonging. And when we don't feel we belong somewhere, anywhere, it can manifest in other ways in our lives that are maybe not so productive. When we lose that inner sense of God, that whatever that inner sense of ourself is, we can so easily lose our true reason for being here, for belonging. So we'll consider today what we can do to heal and deepen our sense of belonging. And I am in Bozeman, and I am headed to Big Sky to have dinner this evening with our many HCCL friends who are there at the Big Sky retreat. And I didn't attend the entire session this year. I had some other commitments. It was a choice. Yet I still kind of felt myself, yesterday and today having a little bit of a pang every now and then that I wasn't there with everyone. I felt a certain sense of belonging there, which was great. And that's the beauty of those types of events. We can make connections and we feel we belong to a group of people or a place or a philosophy. So my message is titled Secrets of Belonging. Now, I borrowed some of it from Reverend Michelle Madrano from Mile High Church, a religious science church in Denver, because I felt there were some very good ideas to share, not only for deepening our spiritual connection, but just for enjoying life in general. So her wisdom, along with my own research and insights and teachings from different faith traditions, is what I have to offer today, with the purpose of addressing a need that we may realize or may not that we have, and how to fulfill it in a way that makes our life even better, that sense of belonging. There are so many things in the outside world that can infuse us with a sense of rejection and guilt and insecurity and take us out of our true human nature. At least I find that, maybe you too. So these days it seems like the entire world is marked by a lot of angst and heartache and anger. Everyone's yelling at each other on the internet, and at times we probably all navigate out of fear of being misjudged or misunderstood, mislabeled. And all of that, all of those outside things happening, whether we see it in the news or in our own community, our lives, can really take us out of our true nature. At least for me, speaking for myself, boy, I can get out of my true God nature, my true being very quickly. But we're going to change that today, right? So belonging, banding together with like-minded people, finding safety in arenas of common thought, that's a common action. And that's wonderful. But the security, the belonging I'm talking about today specifically is the kind that not only warms that heart, but it feeds our soul. It's that within us that created us, that connects us, that guides us. And there really is no other deep sense of belonging or lasting security. And if or when we may lose that inner sense of God, we can so easily lose our true sense for being here, for belonging, belonging to this world, belonging to our life. Just about every human being yearns for belonging. And when we don't feel that we belong somewhere, it can manifest in some ways that are not so good. And it seems to me that this search for belonging is truly the core of some of the greatest searches in our lives. Those big questions: who am I? Where did I come from? What happens after I die? That yearning to feel connected. And as we can struggle with that sense of connection and anchoring to the universe, to God, to ourselves, to the people we share this life with, it can be very discombobulating if it all goes awry. I'm going to guess I'm maybe not the only one who's ever walked into an organization or a job, a store, maybe a church, felt completely compelled to get out of there, like I don't belong. I once left a cart of items in the middle of Home Depot because all of a sudden I got this overwhelming sense of like, I don't want to be here. I don't belong here. And I just have to leave. I don't do that often, but it definitely happens that time. Nor am I the only one who ever walked into some environment and felt that warm familiarity and that, like, oh, yeah, this feels like home. This feels good to be here. So I'm going to invite us today to really reflect on our sense of belonging and where we have felt the lack or the presence of it so that we cling more on to the presence of it. And I'd suggest that where there's disruption in our lives and our culture and our world, possibly at the core of it, it has to do with people who are not feeling a sense of belonging. You know, it's not just all about us. Belonging, could it be that simple and yet so complicated? Now, this quote that I'm going to say from the Bible may spark some discontent in some new folks who do not necessarily hang on the words, but I think it has a lot to say about belonging. It says, we don't remember that we are made to be God's possessions. When we don't remember that we are made to be God's possessions, we end up longing for belonging somewhere else. Through the clothes we wear, the people we engage with, the work we do, we look for home in identities rather than in Christ. Now, that's a very biblical, certain Christian oriented belief. And if that's not yours, that's fine. But I really love the idea that that passage can teach us about what can happen when we don't feel a spiritual sense of belonging, a belonging to God, a belonging to inner knowing, to nature. And a practical example of that really came to light, as I think most of you know, I live in Billings most of the time. I work there, and you may or may not know, it's been in the news a lot this year, a lot of violent crimes that were committed by very young people, literally like 12 and 13-year-olds shooting and killing other individuals. And it's really so sad and disheartening. And the chief of police and the superintendent of schools and some others got together and did a press conference about this a few months ago. And the superintendent of schools said that in all those cases where it had been a young person that is now in custody for a violent crime, all those kids had dropped out of school. So they didn't feel they belonged at school. Most likely didn't have a home life where they felt they belonged. Some of them maybe didn't even have a home. So now we have kids, young people who don't feel they belong in a family, a school, and maybe not in their community or their neighborhood. So guess who comes along and makes them feel like they belong? A gang leader or a ne'er-do-well. They're very good at recognizing that behavior according to those who work in that arena. And the need to belong is such a strong pull to us as humans that even though we may not know it's for our best and highest good, we jump in. I'll bet some of us maybe have done that in a relationship. A sense of belonging, so simple and yet so very complicated. I think of a lot of practical issues today. Of course, there are the political issues that can divide us, but some people really want to feel such a sense of belonging to a particular political party that it doesn't matter what the person says or does in that party. I think of transgender issues in our society now. So there's good news that there's a lot more LGBTQ plus awareness, but I think of people that I grew up with so many years ago where there was no awareness, nowhere for them to belong. Globally, I think of people at war and they've been taken away from where they feel they belong and literally taken to a different country in some places, to a refugee camp. And so many people feeling that they don't belong right now in this world. And I think it seems such a clear message when you think about it, that a sense of belonging is very disruptive, not only to maybe our personal life and our sense of joy, but to the world. And if everyone, I wonder, felt a sense of belonging, maybe they don't reach out in anger towards each other. because we all feel that we belong to humanity and we have a reverence for life. Maybe if we all felt a sense of belonging, we may not feel so afraid and so alone at times. Just have a beautiful walk on this planet while we're here. And so Reverend Michelle says we have a belonging issue that we need to deal with perhaps in this planet to experience greater healing and well-being. And the only way to survive and thrive is to first feel that we belong in this world, this universe, we belong in our life. And what a question to ask ourselves. Do I belong in my life? Do I belong in my life? This life that I've created. We talk a lot about in religious science, creating our life. And do we feel like we belong in it? Maybe some parts, yes, maybe some parts, no. And, when the rug gets pulled out from under us, it can be very unsettling, whether we lose a relationship, a family member, a loved one, our job, any number of things with which we've connected our identity and our sense of belonging. So we that goes away, that outside sense of belonging, and we feel despair and confusion and depression. And we might react in a number of ways. We might withdraw, thinking there's no place now for me to belong. There's no job, there's no person, or a variety of ways, like the young people being seduced by the gangs. Now, that's one of the worst situations that can happen. But we often forget, especially in those times of stress, where we truly belong. So I guess really my main message is today is to really sink in and try and remember in all times that we belong to this universe, to that which created us, to that divine knowing, to something that is greater than us, no matter the outward circumstances going on. And I know that can be difficult. So easy to forget that, at least for me. And it might sound a little woo-woo to say, yeah, all we need is to feel a sense of belonging inwardly and spiritually. But boy, I truly believe it. And when I can do that, whether I've lost a job, I've had a rift with someone, I've lost a lover, whatever it is, boy, I can so quickly go to that outside world and all those feelings that come in of not belonging and making me feel less than. But the times that I can really go, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going to feel all that, but let me first connect to my sense of God, my sense of inner peace, my sense of inner identity, whatever that is for you, and know that, hey, I'm going to be okay. This is going to be okay. I know me. I belong to me. I'm okay. So my purpose today is to remind us of that divine presence, that sense of belonging, and answer that important question, do I belong to my life? I invite us right here to consider what we might be able to do to heal our sense of belonging and deepen it. Now, to do that, the first thing, we may have to look at what Reverend Michelle calls our own belonging origin. We might have to acknowledge that we grew up in an environment where we had something about us that was unacceptable, or something we hid from people, or that a way that others made us feel different. We were bullied, we looked different, we acted different, whatever it was. Whatever made us feel a sense of that we don't belong. Oh, you know what I need to do? Pardon me. I need to plug in my laptop. I will let you ponder that idea of thinking about a place in your life where you have felt that you don't belong. Okay, we are powered up. My apologies, I didn't realize I was low on the battery. But it gave us a moment just to take in a few of the things that I've said, see if anything resonates with you or not. When we take a look at where we first don't feel that we belong, what might come up for you? Just the first few things. Hopefully it's not this group, but is it life in general? Is it work? Is it your family? Because once we first recognize those things, which can be painful, There is some evidence that they call generational psychology, and it suggests that we might be influenced at an energetic level and a genetic level by the people who came before us in our ancestry, or people who have experienced some trauma and drama in their life, and that stays in the energy and in the consciousness of the family, or even if it's our friend family. So no matter how it occurred, it's generation after generation of disconnect and a lack of belonging, in a sense that we're not good enough, I'm not good enough. And we don't want to be the people who perpetuate that history. So first we have to give up that old woundology, as they call it. The founder of religious science, again, Ernst Holmes, he said, I believe that everything exists is an expression of God, and that is why we are here. There is an inner something in us that belongs to the universe. We have to get rid of all that inhabits it, every sense of rejection and guilt and insecurity and anxiety. It's like, okay, Ernest, good idea, but maybe, easier said than done. The well-known author, speaker, and researcher Brene Brown says belonging is an innate human desire to be part of something larger than us. And because this yearning is so primal, we often try to acquire it by fitting in, seeking approval, which it not only allows substitutes for belonging, but also some barriers to real belonging. And I know there are times when I've said, hey, whether it's at work, I'm just going to pretend I know how to do this, or I'm just going to pretend I like this person, or I'm just going to pretend I want to be here. And, okay, maybe Thanksgiving dinner with the in-laws that you don't like, you have to do that once in a while. But if we keep acting and we keep pretending, we keep struggling. Brown goes on to say, pretending is a belonging that will never work because it's a lie. It's not the truth. And when we're out of integrity, when we're doing that, there's often nothing more painful than that. Really? I know I can feel that when I'm pretending to be one way that I'm really not, just because I don't trust who I am. I don't trust that I'm authentically living my life and that that's not good enough. That I could step forward and really have a sense of belonging. So to be able to say, yeah, this is who I am, and I'm going to choose to belong first to myself, first to God, if that's your belief, first to divine intelligence, then everything else seems to fall a little bit easier into place. Authenticity is the truth of our soul. It's something that we can attain. We have to give up a little bit of any kind of a wound that we have against that, though. Give it up our stories. We might have to take that wound and begin to let go and forgive and accept that other people may have had their own wounds that caused us to not be able to accept ourselves. And acknowledging that we do deserve to belong, that we want to belong. And not only that, we have this need for it, for our spiritual deepening as well as our social situations. It's really a brave, bold act to seek belonging and to cultivate it on this planet, where there are lots of voices who want to define us, what's normal, who's acceptable, what's not. But it can first involve recognizing our old stories, letting go of it, and then being willing to accept and live my true authenticity, my story. The more I let go of any kind of story that's holding me back, then the more I feel comfortable in my own beingness. Then I don't make up so much about other people and their stories about me and yada yada. I let myself be. We let ourselves be. And when we step into the truth of who we are and accept and love them, who we are, we can be accepted no matter where we are, what group of people we're in, what job we're in. We can say to ourselves, hey, I'm a beautiful expression of who I am. And that's all we need to know and believe. So back to Brene Brown for a moment, and then I'll give us a little practice that I can leave us with that we can try for a few minutes here or another time. But Brene Brown goes on to say, because true being only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Now, let me say that again. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our sense of self-acceptance. So, what if our lack of belonging isn't so much about them and the world and all the stuff going on? It's about our level of self acceptance. And that may ebb and flow at times. And it seems like such a silly thing because it's like, okay, well, I live with myself. I must accept myself. But not always. We have to really go in and do some work sometimes to say, ooh, I didn't like that I did that, or maybe I wasn't so smart there. But whatever we need to do then to do the work to forgive it, to get over it and go, you know what? I'm pretty cool. I accept who I am. Doesn't mean I'm not a work in progress sometimes, but I have that self acceptance. I deserve to belong to this world. I have value. So true belonging can be nurtured even when it's difficult. Consider choosing to belong to yourself, to belong to God, whatever your belief is, to belong to the authentic soulful energy of ourselves, that soul energy. And then choose to bring ourselves with integrity out into the world to belong and choose consciously. Now, one of the practices we can do, and we'll take just a couple minutes here, so you may not have time to do it fully, but think for just a moment of the places, the groups, the people, an experience or a situation where you felt you don't belong, whether it's the middle of Home Depot or something deeper. Where did I get that icky feeling that I don't really belong here? Maybe in the past, it may be in our present. And allow yourself, it may be uncomfortable, but to feel an emotional sense of that, how it felt not to belong there, especially if it's something or place you were really hoping to feel you belonged or thought you did. Now, just hold that for a moment and let's switch over to the situations, the groups, the relationships, the places where you feel you absolutely do belong. And it feels so good to be there, to be with them, to be involved with a certain project. And allow yourself to feel that emotion. Is it confidence in your knowledge? Is it others are similar to you in age or your sense of humor? Their feeling of non-judgment. Where do I feel a place, a sense of belonging, and how does that feel? These are the emotions and the qualities that we want to remember and bring into all our situations more, especially in those where we feel we don't belong. We can even ask ourselves once we get up and start our day, do I belong in this day? Does this feel like it's what I want to express, what I want to do, how I want to be this day? Am I rushing around, forgetting things? Wait a minute. No, I don't want to belong in this situation. What do I need to do to change that? Oh, I might need to take 5 minutes and do a little breathing or meditating. Now, that, of course, is just an example for me. But to stop ourselves once in a while and say, do I belong in this day? Do I belong in this group? Do I belong in this store right now? It doesn't mean it may not change. And we continually, I feel, need to ask ourselves the very most important question. Do I belong in my life? We only get one, at least in this forum, as far as we know. Who knows? But do I belong in my life? And if the answer doesn't feel quite a total yes, what area maybe do I feel I don't belong? Maybe in this house or this town or this job or whatever it is. And then we can begin to ponder that, and work on that a little bit. to when we can ask ourselves that question, do I belong fully in this life, in my life? We go, yeah, I belong. I belong to whatever this great, wonderful, wild, wacky thing is that's happening now. And so I'm going to wrap this up today with prayer, treatment, as we say. As I speak this word, I speak it for all those who are hearing this word, all those who are with us in spirit, all those who may need to feel that true sense of belonging. Today, I choose to accept that divine sense of belonging, to recognize the belonging that I have to this universe. Each one of us, each soul, a unique expression of divine energy, perfect in its presence. I honor these divine ways that I choose to express my greater good, my creativity, my aliveness, my wholeness, my love, joy, peace, abundance, my wellness in this world. I lean into it. I belong to the good. I accept and affirm in this standing together that each one of us finds and expresses and makes way for greater belonging for ourselves and all others in these coming days, that we allow ourselves to be made whole by releasing any stories of not belonging, letting them go. They no longer matter. They no longer hold us hostage. Letting them go allows space for spirit to come in and fill me with an awareness. That awareness that many times what I felt like was rejection was redirection, an invitation into a greater truth of who I am. I celebrate that this day, and I allow that to be my guide in love and gratitude. In Buddhism, it says solitude is not the same as loneliness, which is a negative, painful experience. Solitude allows us to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. I invite us to at any time know we can go to that solitude and ask our soul, where do I belong? What fills me up with that sense of belonging? And we can rest assured an answer will come. An answer into an invitation into the greater truth of who we are. I am so grateful for that knowing. I release these words into the law of divine action. I know that it is happening for each one of us right here, right now. I affirm this by saying, and so it is.
Thank you, Orlinda.
I will turn that back to you or whoever does announcements. Deb, sorry.
Yeah, I do. I think all of us have that feeling periodically. And and I thank you for bringing it to our attention and giving us some ideas about belonging to God and belonging to the universe, which is a huge belongingness for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of people down at Big Sky, and that's why we have maybe not quite so many here, but I'm grateful that we've got who we've got. Next week is Reverend Charles, and Maddie will be here next week and will be in the sanctuary. And then Jan Wong is the one following that. Maddie, will you be here then? Checking the calendar.
Yes.
Yes, so we've got Maddie for two more sessions. And then we have Jean Sweet. And Jean, is going through releasing a transition of her husband, Alan. And I tell you, it's been magnificent watching her. On September 7th, where she is having a pie party in Alan's honor. He loved pie. He probably still loves pie. He's probably still eating it. So September 7th at 3 o'clock at her home on 513 Dreben. Bring a pie, and let you know what kind of pie you're going to bring, so we don't have 15 apple pies, that we have some different ones, and bring a chair, if a lawn chair, because it'll be outside. Should be pretty nice outside. Please remember that food share is happening on the 15th, and Marilyn Hayes is our food share collection person. Egg cartons are good, and checks are also good. So, so the 15th is food share. And Course in Miracle class with David Donovan is on Tuesdays from 1 to 2:30. And anyone is invited for that. So again, Orlinda, I thank you. I thank you for being here, for sharing your time and your talent with us. Would you please just pray us out to a wonderful week?
Well, yes, and that's very well said, Deb. I would just remind us as we go through our week and going forward to let that question filter in a little bit and see what that means to us. Do I belong in my life? And it's a question we can ask anytime we walk into a room or a place or a situation. Do I belong here? And be willing to let that resonate and see what answer comes to us. And I will wrap this up saying, first, great thanks to all who are here. Thank you, Maddie, for your assistance in case I don't see you before you are off on new adventures. And thank you to all for being here. It would not have been the same without you. And I absolutely know that we go forth into a wonderful week, a sense of belonging, a healing of anything that needs to be healed, and that it is done for the highest good of all involved. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Orlinda. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week.